feel like this should be in the YouTube video?
Yeah, I feel like this is the proper way to lap a valve.
We worked on John Deere tractors.
That's enough clearance, right? Perfect.
Definitely. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're getting right back into the Cummins content. Got some things going on in the background with the 6-liter, but we did get the one sold. So, as most of you guys remember, we went to All Truck Challenge out in Ohio, and good buddy Gordon, which conveniently I'm actually wearing his sweatshirt, suffered an engine failure, and we weren't going to let him go home like that. So, now we are building a cast piston replacement engine for the 07. I miss driving it. Not sure what turbos we're going to do yet, but we are going to build a new engine. Here is the block back from the machine shop. I have one more core left, so we're getting a little low, but this is a stock bore 6.7. I talked to the machine shop. They accidentally used like a different kind of water or something, so this one didn't actually look as clean as it should, as they normally do, but it's fine. No big deal. We're gonna go ahead and get this one set up. First thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and get our firings cut on this and our cylinder head. And then from there, we're gonna go into measuring. Now, full disclosure, I have ran you guys through an engine extremely similar to this. This setup seemed to work really well. We also tried that same setup on Todd's engine and it worked really well. So we're not going to do anything crazy with this one. It's going to be very similar, except I cannot get my hands on another set of 19 and up Cummins pistons. So this engine is going to be a Molly ISB piston, just a OEM replacement for your 13 to 18 trucks. We will have, of course, Wagler Street Fighters. We're going to do a ported head, firing gasket, 625s, Molly H or HX bearings, depending on how the clearances line up. We're going to have a Colt cam in here, some Manton push rods, Manton valve springs, Manton valve bridges, ARP 14 mil mains. We're not doing a girdle. ARP 625s on the top, a brand new set of Cummins rocker arms, and trying to think, just Big B gaskets. I'll just go out there and say it. This engine is going to be 8.5 to 9 thousandths piston wall. Top ring's going to be somewhere between 28 and 30. Haven't really made up my mind yet. Yes, that's a lot, but you guys all know how these builds always end up when I'm in charge. And I'm looking for about 4 on the mains, 3 thou oil clearance on the rods. And let's pitter patter. Again, guys, I'm not sure if this will be 1 parts or 2 parts, but there's going to be a lot more time lapses, kind of like the 6.4 engine build was. I'll pause every once in a while and kind of hit on some hot topics, but I already went through and did this all step by step. Time is of the essence. It's almost winter. I want to get this thing done before it starts snowing. Okay, so we split the firing. We got 18 to 19 thousandths in the block here. Now we're gonna go ahead and move on to the cylinder head. I did this before I cleaned the block. That way if any shavings fell in, it's not a big deal. Splitting it is the strongest way, which means half of this groove is in the block, half of it is in the head. Here we have our ported head. You guys can kind of see there, nice port job. These are XDP springs, but if you guys really take a hard look, it's not very hard to figure out who's making these. So we'll just call these the XDP pressure towers. So we're gonna get that done, get all the valve springs changed out. This head already has the freeze plugs drilled and tapped. So firing, a valve spring change, lap a couple of valves in, and we are ready to go. Okay, so we got our XDP pressure towers in, got those valves lapped in, we are ready to go. One thing I always do is I give these a tap test just to make sure they all sound right. So we'll Yep, sound good. All right, we'll get this flipped over and get the firing tool on here. Right, we got our cylinder head all fire ringed, ready to go. You guys saw us come back to hole 3. On the block, it was a little too deep, so I went a little shallower on this one. That's one nice thing, half and half. If you mess up a little bit, go too deep or too shallow, you could fix it on the matching side. So we got this done, head's ready to go. Our XDP pressure towers, thread and freeze plugs. Let's move on to the crank. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the gear. 2 dowels, gear in the oven for the last hour. Drop it on, make sure it's right, guys. Purple nurple over here, dude. like so. Guys, gotta be quick about this, okay? If you get it halfway stuck on, sometimes it'll tap, but the nice part is, with it like that, now the gear's preheated, so we can actually go right on the TIG weld in this puppy. That way the gear doesn't try to come off on us. While my fingers unthaw from the frigid temperatures we're facing right now, we got the block cleaned. You guys have seen us do it. Really easy. Just make sure on the top here, these are the oil passages for the rocker arms. Make sure you get this main oil galley right here that feeds this whole side. Make sure you guys are getting the oil cavity through the oil pump, the pickup tube. Clean out your cam bore. Hit the oil cooler, and then on the back side there is this oil galley that goes all the way forward. And then underneath, make sure you guys are getting the J-jet holes, the main oil galley that goes from the side oil galley to the main bearings, and then also make sure you're getting the oil galley that goes from the mains to the cam. So that's pretty much it. Once you get it done, brake clean, blow it off, soak it in WD-40 engine oil, whatever you pick. I got our pistons laid out here. And again, here's the part number right there. These are just a cast replacement piston. We got the valve reliefs cut in here, 40 thousandths for our stage 3 Colt cam. Now I'm gonna go ahead and get all the rings off, get them all set up in the block here, start doing our ring gaps, and then I gotta go over to my shop and grab all the parts we need. Alright, that was the easiest ring grinding I've ever done. Oil rings were right at 18. Second ring was like 51. And then the top ring got 30. Because there was so much piston to wall in this guy, you didn't have to grind them. That's pretty normal. Had this have been a more OEM bore, or sorry, hone spec, closer to that like 3, 4, 5 thousandths, we would have had to grind them quite a bit. But since this one is so loose, this one measured right around 9 thousandths piston to wall, and that's where they ended up. So we got our rings done. Now we just need to start cleaning all this stuff. We also have to clean the crankshaft and the cam, and then also go get our rods. So we pressed our old gear off. Here's the stock cam. I love it. Oh, it's one of my favorite things to do. Got Chad here helping us. He is putting the torque on the rod. Buddy, we do have a rod vise now. You don't have to be so ghetto.
I did not know that.
We got a lot of hate in our last video for this vise.
Same.
Yeah. So he's gonna torque these, and then we're gonna measure the bearing. From there, we're gonna measure the crank, subtract the difference to get our oil clearance on the rod. I'm not sure if we're gonna need H's or HX's, so we have one box of HX here. He does one rod. We're gonna measure it against the crank. If it's good, then we'll go ahead, do the other 5. Again, guys, these are the Waggler Street Fighters. Freaking baller rod for the price. Again, 1/2 inch L19 ARP rod bolt. Nice solid construction. These are rated to a very conservative, in my opinion, 1500 horsepower. And yeah, that's what we chose to use. Molly bearings. I'll let you guys know how it stacks up. Okay, so you take your inside mic, zero it on the crank, take your dial bore gauge, zero it, and then so we're coming off of 0. So got right about 4 thousandths. Yeah, 4 thousandths oil clearance. And unfortunately, I think that's kind of how we're gonna have to send it, because I don't have H bearings. They'd come in clutch right about now though. So with it being 4 thousandths, what we decided to do, Wagler has this amazing design where you can run common rail or 12 valve. We had common rail H's in stock. So this practice is used, basically we're gonna do an HX and an H, and that will essentially shrink our clearance by 1/2 thou. Shad, what was the measurement when you mixed them?
It's a 1/2 thou off. So the
3.5?
Yeah, so 3.5. So the H or the H's were 4 thousandths and the HX's were 3. So it's just split the difference.
Okay, flip that. HX's are bigger.
Okay, yeah.
So we mixed them, and that's how you get clearance. Now on this one, we're gonna go ahead and do the mains. Pretty easy. You want the bearings to go in clean and dry, and we're just gonna go ahead and throw H's in here. Hope it works. Obviously we're gonna measure, but that's kind of where we're at. Okay, so what you guys just watched us do, we put the main bearings in, lubed up the studs, torqued them, and then we measured them. Again, we zero off the crankshaft with the inside mic, zero our dial bore gauge, and measure. So we got about 4 1/4, 4 1/2 throughout, which is exactly, honestly, right where we wanted it to be. So now we'll go ahead and pull all this apart, get some assembly lube on the bearings, and drop the crank in. For the sake of time, I am going to just get this done, because it is getting a little late and we got some goals we got to hit. We want to get the rods in tonight. You guys are going to have to forgive me. I am working by myself tonight. We're going to go ahead and swap this cam bushing out. Don't do that. All right, this cam bushing, guys. There's 2 different versions. There's a common rail and a 12 valve. You'll know which one's which. The 12 valves have a much smaller outer diameter. The common rail one's pretty easy. You put some of this 640 in there. I usually hold it in my fingers. You need to line that up with the oil hole in the block right here. So this is a little tricky. Sometimes you get it, sometimes you don't. The big thing is to keep hitting it pretty square with a hammer. And I have this old driver. It's made out of aluminum. Goes like that. You just do a double check on the hole there. Then you just drive it in. Like so. It is a brass or Babbitt style. And you're just kind of checking. And you drive it in. And you basically want to drive this thing just where it's flush, like so, and your oil hole should be unobstructed. And then you get that brake clean out, you get all the retaining compound cleaned off like so. And it's one of those things, in all honesty, I used to never replace these. I used to just clean them. I use a 3-stone hone, kind of clean it up a little bit. And what I found is a lot of these blocks that we're getting, obviously they're core blocks, is people aren't very careful when they pull the cam out. So a new practice I've started, I'd say in the last couple years, is I always replace this bushing. The Molly part number for the common rail one, SH1981. Next we have our oil galley holes. There's 1 on the front, 2 on the back. What I find works best. A little bit of the 640. Oh, don't drop it. That's for starters. We got spares. So you want to just put a bunch kind of on the leading edge. That way, as you hammer it in, it kind of grabs. Like so. We're going to leave this tipped upside down. Take a hammer. And then the secret sauce, you could say, is in my set, it's a 13 millimeter Silver Eagle, which is like Snap-on's, like, or not Snap-on, which is Matco's like house brand. And you just want to make sure it's installed squarely, like so. You find your punch set and you stake it. So it's basically like that, and it divots the block material so this cannot push out. Now, if you have to remove these, not a big deal. You take a little Dremel tool, cleans right up. No harm, no foul there. Then we'll flip it over and I'll show you guys the other two. These ones really suck because if they leak, you gotta pull. I guess really they all kind of suck. Issue I see guys have with these, either they drive them too deep and they block. When these are apart, you'll see there's actual oil passages here, so you can't drive them too deep. That's why this little socket here is great, because it keeps them square in the bore, and because of the way the socket's tapered, it can't drive them too deep. But I see guys either drive them in too deep or crooked, and if they're crooked, they blow right out. If they are too deep, you'll actually starve the engine for oil, blocking the, kind of imagine it like you have a heart attack or a blood clot. Same thing. So now that these are done, we can go ahead and get our front case mounted to this block. We ain't no scrubs around here, guys. RTV gasket, RTV. We'll go ahead and throw this front cover on. I'll give you guys the same tips and tricks as last time. What I do is I set this down, and all the through bolts, so like there, not the ones that have threads in them, the through bolts, I tighten that to the block as well. That way it applies even pressure. Red Loctite on this bolt and these 4, this one and this one. The rest of these will get red Loctite once we put the cover on. And we do red Loctite and we do silicone and we do a gasket because this is not Grandpa's cattle hauler, okay? This is the USPS Priority Express full send package. What we have found, and Meyer can attest to this, is if you don't use red Loctite, some bolts start to come loose on these higher horsepower applications. And I believe that on top of the gasket, you also get the silicone seal on here, and that kind of makes up for some impurities in the block, impurities in the case, and it also gives you a little bit, I feel like, of a vibration dampening effect on this front cover. So that's kind of my reason that I do it. Now, I'm not saying my reason's right, wrong, or indifferent. I'm just giving you guys why I do it the way I do it. Another little tip for you DIY guys. Blue Loctite, oil squirter bolts. These right here, these are hollow. They torque to like, I think it's 10 or 12 foot-pounds. I usually can kind of feel them start to give right around that area. Little bit of blue Loctite. Put the blue Loctite on once the bolt is through the plastic like so. That way you don't run the risk of getting any blue Loctite and plugging those piston squirters. Shad is installing the beautiful Colt tappets. I got our J-Jets. One thing that almost killed us last time, make sure you double check that those are aimed in the correct direction. We got really lucky on the last one because it got pinched, so we paid more attention. I have never had an issue, but make sure you check those. So you guys see there, got them all lubed up. Now we're gonna go ahead and put our Colt Stage 3 cam in. Make sure the engine's timed. All right guys, so generally I will put the tappets and the J-Jets in before the crankshaft if there's a girdle. If there is no girdle, I will do it in this order. The reason I do it, I don't want to risk breaking anything, and I don't want to roll the engine over and forget that there's tappets in there. So that's why we do it in that order. Do it however you want. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and drop the cam in. Funny story guys, this cam actually just fell off my toolbox. The camera was not rolling, so I'm a little sad, but we slapped it on the floor a couple times and it doesn't seem to have any issues, so we're just going to send it. Make sure that's lined up there. Don't put your fingers where you wouldn't put your pecker. Boom. Now we are going to go ahead and tighten the bolts. And this is actually a genuine Cummins gear, and now they're doing dots instead of zeros. So I would probably venture a guess that those are getting made in China now. And then a ton of red Loctite on the cam bolts, cam retainer bolts, cam thrust plate bolts. Goodness gracious. Always start on my hand, and then these bad boys get torqued to 24 foot-pounds. And 15 minutes later, all the rods are in. Shad is doing the final torque. If you guys use the universal piston ring breaker 9000 over there, make sure you tap it flat. From here, we're gonna go ahead and start working on getting everything taped off so we can paint the block. We'll tape off the head area, tape off, you know, all the little oil galleys and stuff, and we'll paint it. I do it this way because the oil pan will be one color, the block will be another, and the head will be another color. So I find it best to paint it in this configuration here. And everything went off smoothly. We got 18 thousandths piston protrusion. We are ready to roll. Okay, so we got it all primed, got the head painted, oil pan's out there. We got the 14 mil stamped in the oil pan. They do make a jig. However, I find the backside of a ball peen hammer, like the round part, works pretty good. And guys, I'm gonna go ahead, probably end this one here. I know we still have a lot to go, but these videos tend to get really long and they start to get kind of hard to edit. So you guys saw us essentially put together the entire short block minus the oil pan and the oil pickup tube. You guys saw us put together the cylinder head. Now all we gotta do is kind of put the gasket on, bolt it down, and then realistically, guys, we're probably a few, maybe 3-4 hours away from actually having this thing done, ready to go in the truck. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Drop a comment down below. Subscribe if you have not already, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the tips. We made it a little bit different. And as always, guys, I will catch you on the next one.